Or do you need me to pull up stuff?
Sit back, relax a little bit. Let me tell you a story. See if yours is anything like mine. Remember when I was a kid? So much better when I popped the lid. Nail the rap or open it up.
Exactly, listen to Shiny. Right, and Cash Out's the easy way to get money transferred when you're out with friends. So pick up into that and then we'll get back to it.
He said, baby, jump in the back, boy. Tailgate crazy.
Jump on in the back, guys. Welcome back to another episode of Fantasy Football Reports on Shady Sports Network. I'm your bus driver, Cedric Green. Got my co-pilot as always, Justin. What's up, Justin?
Oh, I'm feeling good. Feel all right. I love the long holiday weekend. I'm stuffed. I won't need food for a couple days. Other than that, I'm excited how football went this weekend. I'm looking forward to talking about it here with you guys.
Man, this is definitely the next, week of leftovers, right? Like everybody
day
across
2
America.
for me, or day 2 or 3 or whatever it is. The long weekend kind of throws me off.
Mm-hmm. So crazy how much food is made on Thanksgiving, and then I don't know.
What was your favorite dish?
Well, my brother-in-law, he made Cajun turkey. He did a Cajun turkey.
Ooh,
and that was
man.
fire.
See, that's what we don't have up here. We don't have like good Cajun food like that.
Yeah, see, he did it, he said he did all the seasoning himself, but he and then he deep fried it, or fried it, not deep fried it, but it was just so juicy. And I'd say that was up there, but oh man, I've been trying to get my macaroni and cheese right. It's just not creamy enough.
Didn't slap this year. It didn't hit the
not
same.
Not at all.
It lost out to the Cajun turkey.
Oh, big time.
Oh man,
so
that's
I
a
was
shame.
a little down about that.
Damn. But your fantasy teams pulled you out of the darkness, though, right?
Yeah, kind of. It was a little tough, man. In my league that I run, me and the homie Mike, we just came down to the wire. I got over 210. I got 212 points and was still like nervous, So
gave you his best shot. He's like, he ain't coming out with the old easy win. He's gonna make you work for it.
Yeah, he's number 2 in the league, and it's been back and forth the whole time.
Damn, it sounds like he made you really earn that spot in the playoffs.
Yeah, right. What was your favorite dish?
Mine was this sweet potatoes with brown sugar and some other things on top of it. I really liked it. I just put it on top of my stuffing, put it on top of my turkey, put it on top of my green bean casserole and stuff. It was just a good added layer to everything. Nice and gooey and warm. I loved it. Okay. And I'm not usually a sweet potato guy, so I tried a new dish and I thought it was pretty bomb.
I'm a fan of sweet potatoes, so I like that. That's cool. I like to hear that.
On their own, it was good, but like when I put it on top of the other things, I was like, oh damn, that adds another level. I love how that hits.
Yeah, that's Thanksgiving, man. It's the one time too where most people are all about mixing, different foods that you wouldn't normally mix together, and it comes out. It's like, oh man, especially like that day after sandwich, right? Turkey sandwich with the cranberry sauce.
Yeah, the wife made all the rolls, so you just after Turkey Day is done, the next couple of days, it's just adding everything in between those rolls and just popping them like sliders.
Exactly. Well, guys, yeah, like I said, welcome back for another episode of Fantasy Football Reports. Tonight, we're going to have a quick rundown as we do on Sundays, our instant reactions, our recaps, just kind of touching on maybe some injuries. If you guys have any questions, set questions going in. I know we still have that Broncos game going on tomorrow, Broncos and Browns. So I feel like
it's a big one with the Chargers winning.
Yeah, especially with the Chargers winning, the Broncos
and the Chiefs won.
Barely on both of them, right?
Yeah.
So, Broncos need to come out with a big win, but yeah, we'll be touching on that. We'll be touching on that Thursday night game, that big win. The Thursday morning game, the Lions finally got a win over the Bears on Thanksgiving Day. And then we got the other games, the Cowboys, and then what was that night game?
It was the Dolphins and the Packers.
Oh yeah, the Dolphins and the Packers. That was a crazy one with some big fantasy points scored too. So
Mhm.
we'll be touching on that one. Guys, you know how we do. So thanks for joining in with us. We're live every Sunday at 7 p.m. Mountain Standard Time. And then we come back live Tuesdays at 6:30 p.m. Mountain Standard Time on Shady Sports Network. So anywhere you go on social media, just search Shady Sports Network and you'll more than likely see us on if it's a Sunday or Tuesday night. So don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe. Please share. Other than that, we'll just jump right into it. I know, Justin, I said we're going to start with the Thursday night game, the Lions game, but you'd said before we went live, Christian McCaffrey just went into the tent, right?
Yes, and now he's back in the locker room. He's listed questionable to return with a knee injury. He is currently not on the field. There's still 6 minutes left to play in the second quarter.
Damn.
Jordan Mason has taken over running back carry duties.
Dang,
He was limping off to the sidelines after a big run play. So hopefully he's okay, but that's what we're all worried about here with his injury history this year. Coming back, playing in some inclement conditions, and hopefully it's just a little small injury, nothing serious, but didn't look good.
Yeah, hopefully he's okay. I feel like he was on a little roll there.
Oh, he was. He was running the ball good and hard. He got a couple of big gains, but then this last one he had, he just came up limping and didn't feel right. So hopefully, yeah, it's just precautionary.
Yeah, and then right after that, James Cook, right? James Cook had a big touchdown run.
65-yard touchdown run in the snow.
So crazy looking at this game right now. The fantasy highlight is James Cook, right? You got Brock Purdy, you got Josh Allen, you got CMC, you got Deebo Samuel, you got, Amari Cooper, all these names, and George Kittle, and James
hopefully
Cook
it helps you guys get towards a Monday Night Miracle, or for others, you just hold on and win your matchups.
Yeah. So, I just wanted to kind of touch on that real quick. I know a lot of people are probably banking on CMC. If you got CMC, you're probably banking on him to come through for you tonight. So
Josh Allen also banged up his left hand on a first down run too, so he's been shaking that all night long. So hasn't knocked him out of the game, but it's something to keep an eye on. It's been bothering him.
Man. Some, small or who knows, not so small, but some injuries that we should keep an eye out for. I think that'll kind of affect some things too moving forward the next couple of weeks, actually, especially as we get closer, right? This is probably the last week for some people. Next week's probably the last week for some people, or the week after that. But anyway, one of these next few weeks,
our fantasy season's coming to an end, everybody. But hopefully you guys are rolling into the playoffs, pushing for a ship. And for those of you that's looking like the other side of it, don't give up. Play spoiler, that's fun, and get some momentum going into the fantasy season next year.
So crazy that we're here, man. I remember our way too early rankings, right?
Yeah, they'd probably look pretty wild now if we look back on them.
Right? I think I might have. I can upload them again, but I think I might have taken them off of here. Let me see if I can find them.
Could always save it for a Tuesday show special.
Right? Yeah. Go over our way too early rankings compared to now. But I don't think we were too far off. Quite honestly. What about you guys? Looking back on your teams, what are some players that you drafted? And I'll put this in the chat too. What are some players that you drafted and you don't even use them?
Or players that you had to drop due to long-term season-ending injury, players you had to drop because they're disappointing post-draft, or some players that you picked up off the waiver wire that's been carrying you into a playoff run, or players that surprise you and really becoming the bedrock of your teams and the foundation of your rosters and really winning you matchups week in and week out. And who are some people that you kind of just left on the waiver wire pile and thought they were going to have a good year, but never did, and didn't draft them. You didn't pick them up.
Yeah, I'd like to hear that. I mean, I have no disappointments. I like everyone on my team. I just draft that well.
Well, that's why you're the
No.
bus driver, man. We're just the
Exactly.
bus riders. You're the bus driver.
Although I got 2 points right now from Josh Allen, so we'll see.
Man, how could you
know,
start him, man?
especially when Tua went off. I had Tua sitting on my bench.
Well,
How can you not start Josh Allen though?
I don't know, man. I don't know.
Let's see. Yeah, but going back to Thursday night though. Starting off with that Lions game, man. That was the Lions ran away with it at first, and then felt like the Bears started trying to make a game out of it.
Yeah, it looked like they just got a little too cute for themselves into the second half. Like things were working almost too well in the first half, getting too comfortable. Then the injuries started piling up, and it kind of felt like towards the end there they were hanging on just to survive. And thanks for the Bears bearing, the Lions got away with a win there. It's about as easily said as that. I could have easily went to overtime or touchdown scored and lost the game, but bad decision, bad clock management led to the Lions coming out with a win. I mean, a bad penalty to set that whole thing up, but it's bend don't break, and at the end of the day, a win's a win. As far as the fantasy performances go, on the Lions side of the ball, Montgomery and Gibbs showed well. They did good, and our guy Sam Laporta from the Ashes coming up and doing big in your tight end matchups. If you had him, very big difference maker, getting those touchdowns in the red zone. Other than that, a little ho-hum game with a few catches here or there. Amon-Ra St. Brown, kind of just stabilizing me in the floor in your lineups. No touchdowns, but, he got you probably around 9 to 12 points. He was a very solid piece there. Having a business as usual kind of a game. And then Jared Goff, 2 touchdowns, didn't turn the ball over today or on Thursday, and kept the chains moving and ultimately got his team a win. So I think on the Detroit side of the ball, the fantasy game was pretty well. You kind of liked everybody you started, and no big surprises, no big disappointments. It was just kind of like a business as usual. The standard is standard for fantasy on that end of it. On the Bears side of the ball,
I was gonna say.
On the Bears side of the ball, DeAndre Swift had somewhat of a game. Not terrible, but he got some good numbers. He busted off some big runs. Odunze and Keenan Allen, especially with the 2 touchdowns, that was huge. And then DJ Moore in the second half came to life and had a touchdown. They missed him a couple times where it would have been another easy touchdown, which just bad decision making on Caleb Williams' part. But give props to Caleb Williams. He did his best to win them that game on Thursday. He did his best second half performance. The Lions were really shutting him down, taking him out of the game in the first half, causing a lot of 3-and-outs, not letting him run outside and break and contain and busting off big plays here and there. In the second half, I felt like he played like a warrior. As a Lions fan, I give some respect to the Caleb Williams and the Bears. You gave them your best shot. You did what you could, and for the 3rd week in a row now, you lose to a division opponent in a heartbreaking fashion, and that's demoralizing, and that is really a morale killer in the locker room. But, if you're an owner of players like Caleb Williams or Odunze or Keenan Allen or DJ Moore going into this playoff runs, you should be, interested and grateful that they're putting up numbers here, even in second halves of games, and not quitting and keeping trying to perform and win for the game and win for the team instead of folding and being all down on themselves. So, it was a great overall fantasy performances for both sides of the ball in that game from either team.
Yeah, I'd say that their receivers definitely came through and outperformed the Lions receivers. There was I feel like there was a couple of passes Jared Goff, kind of get away from him. But Caleb Williams, man, the second half, and I think that was another reason that pushed them to let Eberflus go and keep promoting up their quarterback coach, right? The progress he's had with Caleb Williams the past couple of weeks, and then you see just not even if it wasn't Eberflus who had, he didn't call the play maybe at the end, but he didn't stop it either. Right? You're the head coach. You're supposed to at least manage the game, manage the clock.
Well, I think what really caused Eberflus that job is the lack of clock management and just lack of awareness at end of game situational football.
Yeah,
and that was just the nail in the coffin.
That's when you're supposed to like be on.
I felt like he lost the locker room a couple games ago, and like this was just it was inexcusable. A lot of irate, and rightfully so, and justifiably so, from fans and players in the locker room of just it's inexcusable. You at the professional level, you can't do that. You cost your team's games. Like you got Caleb Williams the last 3 games putting this team in a position to win it, and special teams falling on their head, getting field goals blocked and blown in overtime by not containing the defenses. And this time you just let the game literally slip away by letting the clock hit 0. I mean, you had a timeout in your pocket. You should have used it. You didn't. And now it costs you a job. And, in most situations, you'd feel bad for the guy. You'd feel terrible that this sort of stuff costs his job. But like, this has been going all season long with this coach. He's and the frustration is just boiled over, and rightfully so with the GM and ownership. Is you gotta hold people accountable.
Yeah, you gotta trump and override and make sure little things like that don't cost you the game, right? He can't be out there making the plays and catching the ball and throwing the ball and playing defense, but he can make sure that the plays that are called are the right situations, right? Or putting the
or call a timeout, even if it's not a play. You don't have the play. Just give your team one more time to put up a play and make it.
Yeah, don't have your rookie quarterback have to make that decision and do whatever needs to be done. Shout out to Austin. What up, Austin? Thanks for joining us.
Hey, Austin, welcome back. Glad to have you.
Yeah, we'll definitely get to that here in a moment. Didn't want you to think we didn't see it. But yeah, no. I think just with depending on how the season rides out, I could see them sticking with what's his name? I can't think of the coach's name, but I mean, dang,
Tim Brown. He's the offensive coordinator that they replaced Shane Waldron with.
Yeah, I was gonna say to get 2 promotions within a month. That's not bad.
Well, he's got to put up and right this ship. I don't think he's got a good situation upon him to do that with the season ultimately probably over for the Bears. But you got to evaluate talent and evaluate how you want your team to look like the rest of the season going into next year, and then do your best, basically audition and performance of these last 5 or 6 games, however many left, and audition for making an argument and a case for you taking over the head job next year. And that's what the Bears got to figure out. I mean, they have the pieces on offense and defense. They'll go into the draft probably with a top 10 pick, and got to build from there. And as sad as it is, you got to look towards next year, but you also got to finish off this year strong with some dignity. So,
yep. And
if you're a Bears fan, you just got to look forward to the future and just hang on for the now.
Yep. Well, and you saw some good things too. I mean, I think you got a pretty good direction to go in. They have all the pieces to be really, really good, and that's where they need to be right now, especially in their division.
As far as fantasy relevance goes, are you worried at all with the Bears season on their side of the ball? Not so much the Lions with their situation. As for the Bears, do you fear that for fantasy purposes they start shutting down players because the season's lost as far as them making a run for?
I don't think so.
Playoffs and championship.
I think they Caleb Williams as much. Yeah, I think you want to give Caleb Williams as much as many snaps and reps that you can get for him.
So you're not afraid of risking injury or the other offensive pieces.
Well, I mean, those pieces on that team though, those aren't really pieces that are being built around for championship teams, right? Like
a Dunze and DJ Moore.
You picked them up off the waiver wire and it turned out.
Well, I think a lot of people drafted Moore and a Dunze this year and Keenan Allen.
I guess you're right. They're 94% of teams rosters on Sleeper, and 77% of those teams start them. So 60% of the time they work every time, right? So I guess DJ Moore for sure. Like they're putting up points. They've been solid. See how He's number 13 receiver overall on the sleeper app. So,
I know I'm
definitely
confident if I have those
wild.
guys in my rosters, I'm still firing up in my lineups. I know their schedule doesn't look as juicy the rest of the season, but
Yeah.
they put up points against the Lions. They put up the points the last couple of weeks. So if
Mhm.
you don't have better options or same or similar, and it's mostly preference based, I am not worried. I mean, as far as that goes, that's a team call whether or not they decide to do that option and go that
Yeah, and
route or
then you
not.
know about it, and I would hope you'd have
Mhm.
somebody to replace him with, but we'd hear about that if that were going to be the case for sure. I don't think
Yeah.
these players are. I don't think they're going that route. They still. I mean, we saw 2 years ago when the Lions kept Green Bay out of the playoff on the last game of the season. On
Hmm.
Aaron Rodgers' last game with the Packers. So it doesn't matter where you are right now. You can still finish strong, and especially with I think their games coming up are divisional games. Let's see. They, so they play the 49ers, which isn't divisional, but then they play the Vikings, the Lions, the Seahawks, and they end with the Packers. So there's still a lot of room for them to play playoff buster, you know what I mean,
Hmm.
and change up playoff seeding, especially with there only being one bye week. I mean, they can do a lot of damage in these next few games and finish out pretty strong. So I'm confident in them. I'm good with them for sure.
Hmm. That's a good point. Good point.
Cool. So, anything else on this game?
No, I think that was about it. I
Cool,
think we
cool,
covered
cool.
it quite well.
Nice. Well, we'll move on. We'll just briefly touch on the other two games. So Cowboys and Giants. Of course, Cowboys coming through, right? Battle of the backups to the backups.
Hmm.
But still, Rico Dowdle shine.
Yes, he was a darling. I fitted him in a number of my lineups this week, taking advantage
Yeah.
of a porous Giants defense. And
I feel like it took a little bit for him to go off though. Like I was
well, that's
saying.
because they're trying to implement Ezekiel Elliott still in the lineup, try to get him his touches and keep him happy and fed, and incorporate a little dash of Dalvin Cook every once in a while. And I think now they just decided, you know what, take the training wheels off, unleash him, let him go full speed, and then and any time he needs a breath, then implement the other guys. But I think this is Rico Dowdle's backfield rest of season, and he's going to at least put up some running back 2 numbers. I don't know exactly what he scored this weekend, but I'm sure it was probably double digits because he at least got a touchdown.
Yeah.
And going forward, I'm confident with his rest of season schedule to keep firing up and playing where he got him if you need him.
So yeah, Rico Dowdle was like around 19 to 22 points.
CeeDee Lamb was a little bit disappointing though, but I think that comes back to quarterback play. I mean, between Cooper Rush and Drew Lock, it was just a meh fest. It wasn't really anything impressive.
Well, Neighbors still got his though, right? I feel like Malik
I
Neighbors.
know.
Not to jump over to the other side all quick, but
No,
yeah,
you're all
I'll
good.
quick
You're
it
all
over
good.
there. But yeah, I just feel like his floor is like 14 points. Like
going rest of season. He's set it and forget it. He's a must start. Like, don't worry about the matchups. I mean, even the Cowboys defense was looking a bit scary this week, getting pieces back and getting healthier, playing at home. But he still proved he can show out, he can ball out, and confidence maker and a difference maker in your matchups.
That Cowboys defense been going off this game, the past 2 games, especially in those divisional games, which they have. They have 2 more divisional games left against the Eagles and the Commanders. So we'll see how that plays out. Maybe if you're looking for a defense to stream, probably look at them. They're probably sitting on somebody's lineup anyway. But they definitely went off. They had around 19 points.
Yeah, they're on a little bit of a hot streak. I think they've reached double-digit points in the last 3 games, including this one. So, a defense definitely to keep an eye on that's playing hot going into the playoffs.
Yep. And then, man, Tyrone Tracy, you think he's just his? It's his, whatever. That's his
I
spot.
think it is so. I mean, they gave Devin Singletary the start, and he didn't do anything with it. And even though he had the fumble last game and a couple of games ago, he's still playing confident football, and he's a rookie. So they'll probably, with their season also likely lost, not looking – I think they are eliminated from the playoffs. They're just going to keep running their guys and seeing what they got going into next year and trying to, build momentum going into next year and keep evaluating talent and see what direction they want to go with player management going into next year. But Tyrone Tracy is another guy I picked up earlier in the year, played him in a lot of leagues, and he did, sufficient amount of fantasy points this weekend too, and the week before that. So I'm very confident. Keep playing him forward. Him and Malik Neighbors are probably the only two pieces in the Giants offense I'm even looking or blinking at playing. Everybody else is just a meh point, and you play at your own risk. But I think Tracy and Neighbors are two guys you can confidently put in your lineups the rest of the season. I think that backfield now is probably going to be 80-20 Tracy to Singletary. They'll put Singletary in there a little bit to give him a break or off big plays or, every other drive just to give him some rest and keep him healthy. But for the most part, this is Tracy's backfield going forward.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think you said it best. There's not really anybody else you'd be looking at. I mean, I was watching
and in both those
Robinson
backfields
for a while.
Mm-hmm.
Go ahead. Well, no.
Well, I was just going to say, in both of those backfields, if you have Ezekiel Elliott and Devin Singletary, if you can expend the roster spot, I feel like those are two players you can cast off to the waivers and are droppable players going for the rest of the season playoff push. You can look elsewhere to try to find depth because they're just not going to get enough volume, and they're not going to produce enough points for you to justify even throwing in your flex spot. So those are two people on both in that game, both sides of the ball that you could probably be good and done with.
Mm-hmm. All right, and then so that was the Cowboys Giants game. Cowboys win that game 27-20 over the Giants. Battle of the backups, like I said. So earlier I put up a question. Which player that you drafted ended up being a disappointment, right? And then we got my man Austin chiming in. So I want to touch on that because it kind of touches on the next game, Dolphins and the Packers that end out Thursday night. So Austin came through and he said Jalen Waddle was a guy I drafted that was a disappointment, which is crazy because Jalen Waddle, I thought he went off last week, but then I haven't been following Jalen Waddle. So I was like, yeah, he did go off last week, but outside of last week, man, he's been garbage. Quite
what was that word? I believe I used that word last week on him. What was he said?
Garbage.
Oh, Jalen Waddle is garbage.
Garbage.
That's right.
He almost had 30 points last week, but then Tyreek came and snatched it back, and I feel dumb because I benched Tyreek. I knew if I should have played Tyreek and I should have played Joe Burrow. I don't know what I was thinking, but yeah, Tyreek came and snatched it back and claimed his throne. I wouldn't say it was a disappointment, but I feel like we should have known. Jalen Waddle wasn't going to be the guy.
I knew after last year when he did me dirty that I was wiping my hands clean of him. I'm done. That man's dead to me. So yeah. I feel bad for any of you who drafted him this year. It's kind of your own mistake you made. You should have seen that coming. I think overall Jalen Waddle's
a flex.
I mean, if that's your bar, yeah. I mean, he ain't gonna catch him on any of my rosters and any of my lineups. He is what he is. If he's not putting up duds, he's getting hurt in game and giving you dud numbers. And what he does is as soon as you lost faith in him, he comes out the next week and busts off a big game and make you all happy that you drafted him and feel good that you have him on your roster, but you didn't start him, and then you start him the next week and he does the same crap that he's done every other week before. So he is what he is. At least to me.
Well, to clean that out of our taste buds, what about Jonas Smith?
Dude, where did he come from, man?
Where did he come from?
I didn't even recognize any Dolphins tight ends a month ago, and he has really emerged as I think he's at one of the top 3 tight ends now this year.
He's number 4 tight end.
He's number 4, top 5 though, and he can't.
Yeah,
man, if he's still sitting on waiver wires, you have my green light, and I advocate go and get him because this man has got to his eyes. I think he's got 11 targets, 10 targets, 9 targets.
He was tight end. He was top 3 tight end the past 3 weeks. So he was tight end 3 this week, tight end 2 last week, tight end 3 the week before that. But yeah, he had 11 targets this week, last week, and then 8 before that. So yeah, like you said, he has definitely become the darling And
if he's available out there on your waivers, get him. Dump the rest of your fab on him. Do whatever it takes to get him on your rosters because he's going to be a great flex and a tight end if you need a tight end fill in on your roster. And also for playing defense, I don't think you ever want to go up against him rest of the season in the matchups when he's putting up, what was it, like 15, 16, close to 20 points these last 3 weeks?
Over 20 points.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
because I have him nowhere, but he's definitely on my radar now after watching him on Thursday night. I'm like, where is this guy?
He's rostered on teams. If he's available, I don't know what's up with your league. But
yeah, if he's available, though, you in agreement with me thinking that go get him?
Yeah, if you can. He's on 82% of teams on Sleeper, so not very many teams. He's not
holy crap. Austin just said he had 21 points in full PPR.
Yeah, I was gonna say he had 21 points this week, 23 points last week. He had 32 points against Las Vegas. So
yeah, like Austin said, if you have people like Pitts on your lineup, like you definitely want to be starting him over Kyle Pitts.
Well, Pitts is garbage too, right? Like,
yeah, there you go. There's that big G word. Trash that man. We should get a waste management segment where we can get a list of players we can just dump in the trash, put them on the curb.
Trash that man. Let's see.
We got to keep this bus clean, Said. We got to get the garbage off of it after we're done. Yeah, leave no garbage on this bus.
Yeah, keep that garbage off this bus. But no, I think a lucky TD to keep his numbers up for sure because he didn't really do a whole lot, but I know he was one of my.
Yeah, I saw that tip ball. Yeah, it was a lucky TD, but both those guys better than Waddle this week in the cold. So just throwing that dig in there again. So.
Yeah, Waddle had around 11 points. So,
and I know people say Tua can't play in the cold. Well, rightfully so. They lost the game, but I think he played a respectful game as far as fantasy purposes go. I think he got about 20 points. I think he played well. Yeah, as a team they lost, but he was still moving the ball downfield respectively. They couldn't get the running game going at all. That was where they killed them. I mean, Devon Achane coming out of the background for screen passes and off-tackle passes, that was great and fine. But, like, between the tackles and between him and Mostert, they just were not getting anything running. And with the game script going as far as the Packers just dominating and forcing really the Dolphins to throw the ball majority of the game, it is how it went. I think I wasn't necessarily impressed by Tua, but I felt good and confident if I want to play him rest of the season. I mean, for how well he's looked on Thursday night there on Turkey Day, there's been games in the cold in the past that he's been absolute just unplayable, unstartable. So it was a good showing going forward.
Yeah. So let's take
and the Dolphins, I think at this point they just can't play in the cold, man.
Yeah.
They
just can't. Yeah.
They're 0-5 in the cold now. Let's just all admit it. I think that they're not a cold weather team.
Yeah. How's San Francisco doing in the cold right now?
They got 3 points, it looks like.
Yeah, it's hard. It's hard in that cold weather. But yeah, no, Packers take that game 30-17 over the Dolphins.
Mm-hmm.
It was a pretty decent Thanksgiving Day lineup. I think especially for being Thursday games, I think there was some solid scores.
A lot of fantasy points on Thursday. A lot of people had a lot of good matchups going into the weekend if they started some of the stars on Thursday night, like Jaden Reed, Jordan Love, Josh Jacobs, Achane, Tua, Tyreek, and Jonnu Smith, and
Laporta. Yeah, Jonnu just freaking wild. I think he was probably the highest. Let me see. I think he was the highest scoring tight end because Dallas, New York didn't have any really tight end. I mean, they had some decent points with the tight ends, but yeah, I know. It was Jonnu Smith, then Laporta. So some really high scores from tight ends on Thursday night. Then you had
but the king of the tight ends though this weekend said, hands down, was King Bowers.
Oh man, I was gonna talk
man. Oh man, did he ball out on Friday?
Man, yeah. So yeah, Austin said too. Bowers was so
yeah. He made Kelsey look like he was a second fiddle there. Like, nah, I'm the top tight end.
Yeah, I was gonna say a break real quick, and then we'll come back and we'll touch on that. Brock Bowers records. So we'll do this promo break really quick, guys. You're watching Shady Sport. You're watching Fantasy Football Reports on Shady Sports Network. Thanks for tuning in with us. Don't forget to hit that like button, and we'll be right back. Yo, guys, man, welcome back. It's Shady Sports Fantasy Football Reports. Like we were talking about before we took that promo break really quick. For those of you tuning in, we're starting to talk about Brock Bowers, man, king of the tight ends. Definitely went off around 30 points. Was definitely tight end one this weekend. But man, aside from that, aside from the Raiders getting robbed on what should have been a false start instead of a legal shift, or aside from Aiden O'Connell out dueling Pat Mahomes, man.
Mm-hmm. Another lucky game for the Chiefs they walk away from. Like
crazy. And you had that question in the chat. And guys, you can join our Facebook group if you're about fantasy football. Head over to our Facebook group, Shady Sports Fantasy Reports. And we have these polls. We throw the show in there. We have recaps. We just kind of keep the conversation going. So yeah, Justin put out a poll before that game, the Kansas City Vegas game, who was going to have a better game, Travis Kelce or Brock Bowers. And of course, like me, like everyone else that drafted tight ends, like Kelce, man, he has to. I mean, Noah Gray went off the week before, right? So it has to be Kelce's week. He has to come in. But man, Brock Bowers came in and put.
I think he outscored both him, Kelce, and Gray this week.
Together. Kind of. Gray had around 9 points. Kelce had around 13 points, and then. So yeah, no, actually, he did outscore both of them together.
Yeah. And that's impressive. And tip of the cap to Aiden O'Connell, man. He balled out. He got hit Trey Tucker on that big 58-yard touchdown, hitting Abdul in the flats, getting it off, ball out quick. I mean, it was unfortunate how the game ended, but if you're the Raiders fans, like you got stuff to build off here. Just keep building off of O'Connell and Bowers. Those are your two foundational pieces. And then, the defense did the best they could. They held.
Well, Carlson did miss 3 kicks too, so we can't.
That hurts too.
Yes, especially when
that played into a couple other games this weekend. Missed field goals really, caused games to go either way.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, but the Raiders balled out for sure. I'm glad they waited this. Well, they kind of balled out against the Broncos too. They balled out against the Broncos too.
I mean, I don't think they're no slouch. I think they play ball hard. They keep fighting until the game hits 0-0. It's just. Sometimes, and for this season, it just hasn't gone the Raiders' way. And I think I think the Chiefs are the most luckiest 11-1 team.
Hey, they're 11-1, so they have to be doing something right.
Yeah,
but
sometimes it just goes that way. It's frustrating, but it is what it is.
Hey, I just won in my fantasy league by 2 points, and I'll take it, right? You got to stretch.
A win's a win.
A win's a win, man. Like, you're not gonna blow out every single team, and that's the thing, man. It's the NFL, right? Like, it's not like the Chiefs are leaps and bounds against other teams. It's not like they're the Chiefs that won that first Super Bowl 4 years ago. No, like, just Pat Mahomes just is in his zone. He's in his mode, right? He knows what he's doing. It's like the same thing with Tom Brady, man. Like the Patriots weren't blowing people out, there was a game, I think they had a game where they ran like 40 times or something like that. They're not looking to blow people out, they're just looking to win the game. And I think that's what the difference is. When teams play the Chiefs, teams are thinking they gotta put up all these points and they gotta like score because the Chiefs, they're so afraid the Chiefs can score really quick, and they just get in all their head about what they gotta do. And the Chiefs just go and do what they need to do. Like, they'll get the touchdown, and Patty Mahomes knows like somebody will be in the right place. Like he doesn't panic, he doesn't think he needs to like bomb it down the field. He doesn't, that's why he's one of the best, NFL quarterbacks, especially right now. He's like one of the best NFL quarterbacks, but he's like the worst fantasy quarterback, right?
Yep.
The worst fantasy quarterback in the world. I mean, he still had 3 touchdowns, right? He had the interception, but he still had 3 touchdowns. He still had over 400 yards. Or no, I'm sorry, I'm looking at Russell Wilson's stats. So it's not Pat Mahomes.
That's not the same quarterback.
Oh man, Russell Wilson. Let's talk about that. But no, like Pat Mahomes is not gonna get you points.
Mm-hmm.
He didn't last year. He doesn't care, right? I mean, he still had over 300 yards. He had 1 touchdown. So a little
So
different.
thinking on the fantasy purposes side of the ball, if you're had Chiefs in this game, you're happy with Patrick Mahomes' performance. He did all right for you.
No.
The running game though between Kareem Hunt and Isaiah Pacheco, that was kind of a dud week
Boo-boo.
for both those guys, I'd say. I mean, you're not happy if you had them started in your lineups and they didn't help you win. They certainly contributed to probably if you lost your matchups, and that's a
Yeah.
stinker. That's something that the Chiefs have to figure out next week is their running game, how they're going to approach that, and who's going to,
Well, now they have to
touches.
have Pacheco commanded now. They should have just ran with Kareem Hunt
Okay.
until he gave it up, right?
Mm-hmm.
That was just not good for them to just change it up and just force Pacheco back into it. I think they should have just kept going with Hunt. But yeah, I mean, we saw it coming. We saw the writing on the wall. If you had Kareem Hunt, you were prepared to
Yep.
not get points from
It was
him
definitely a
anymore.
risky start. There wasn't any
Mhm.
serious confidence that you think he was going to do what he did weeks
Mhm.
before. You're correct, Austin. I would agree. I think another week of getting healthy, another week behind him in the recovery and putting this game behind him. I think Pacheco should be the guy going forward and keep Hunt for situational football purposes and third down or passing game needed, and let Pacheco go between the tackles, goal line, and first and second down. I think that should be the best formula to get the Chiefs running game back to where they want it to be. But as far as this game goes and these purposes for fantasy, you are not at all happy about the performance that you had from those two guys in your lineups. Then as far as wide receivers go, I think Watson and Gray and Smith-Schuster and Worthy all were kind of, below average, not very impressive plays for you this week. The only relatively happy person you could have had that you flexed or put in a wide receiver spot was DeAndre Hopkins because he had a couple big bomb catches. I mean, no touchdown this week, but he had those couple big plays, and that's the guy Patrick Mahomes is relying on to be the difference maker on third down and just breaking free and getting it. At the beginning of the year, that was Worthy's role, and Worthy's kind of taking a step back so far this season. I think he should be fine rest of season going forward because, he's always volatile to hit that big play for you, but it's almost like a lottery ticket. If he doesn't get that big play or touchdown, he's kind of spot in your lineup that's kind of hurting you every week. So that's something to take into consideration going forward. I mean, DeAndre Hopkins with getting the higher snap count and building even more confidence for Mahomes, he should be a good confident start going forward rest of season into your playoffs. Keep playing, I would say.
Yeah, I'd feel confident putting DeAndre Hopkins in like a flex spot for sure. What about that kicker though from Kansas City?
I think any kicker from Kansas City, I'm kind of straying away from. I mean, until Butker comes back, I don't think I'm going to roll the dice with either Matthew Wright or Shane Schrader, what his name is. It just, I don't know. At this point of the season, you can't be like trying to stream these darlings or these like Cinderella story kickers. You got to have your Boswells, you got to have your Moody's, you got to have your McPhersons and Elliott's, the players that are going to get you, 10 to 15 points week in and week out, and they have a track record of making their kicks.
No, you're totally right about that. Man, another game I was looking at got big points from. I feel like I was just like looking at my points go. Commanders versus the Titans, bro.
Was that a surprise for you? I mean, as well as the Titans defense has played
previously. I thought Pollard. I thought they'd look a little bit better.
And with how mediocre, Jane Daniels, comparatively so from the beginning of the year, how he's been playing lately, you're kind of like, wow, the explosion's back. He's still got it. And,
Well, I mean, Terry McLaurin, I don't think he had a game. Well, I guess last game he went off. He went the hell off last game. But last game was like a couple catches. This game, it was like, man, he was like
he's been a guy all year round that I have not wavered from. I've kept putting him in my lineups, kept starting him. He's the number one in that offense. Jay McDaniels is, putting up QB1 numbers, and he's being productive in his first year in the league, and that's his alpha. That's his number one. That's his guy he's going to go to. And I've just been riding and dying with him. Like, I've been suffering through the sub double-digit games, but I've been loving it when I've been, like, this week, getting that big 20-point game, multiple touchdowns. I mean, that's what you like to see in your number one wide receiver.
Austin said he benched him for
Austin.
Wilson. Yeah, that was
womp womp.
That hurt. Scary Terry's the guy that I just leave. To
go back to what Austin said, I think Hopkins' snap percentages will start to go up closer against the playoffs because they're going to need him if they want to really win games against challenging opponents.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. That's why they brought him in, right? Like, they need that consistency, that veteran approach.
He's a big red zone threat. He's a big chain mover, and he's a big play threat waiting to happen. I mean, he's the older model of what Xavier Worthy is trying to become and be. So
he's the Larry Fitzgerald of this new generation. Just going out there and going.
But yeah, that sucks. I mean, benching him, if you did, I'm sorry for. I mean, it's good that you still won, Austin, but I feel like a lot of people who ended up sitting him this week really felt those points on the bench.
Oh, from Scary Terry, yeah, yeah. And I mean Brian Robinson too, man.
Hey, I bit that bullet too. I just wasn't confident with his ankle. He's been in and out of the lineup. I started him last week, and he got knocked out, and it almost killed my matchups. And I didn't end up putting Robinson back in this week. And he's the guy. Eckler's on IR now. He's going to be out for another 3 weeks. So you're going to keep rolling with B-Rob. And if you want to look at someone going forward, possibly on waivers to add, with Eckler still out, if you have Eckler, is I think Christopher Rodriguez or Christian Rodriguez. Sorry if I butchered his name. But it looks like he's leapfrogged McNichols in that, secondary running game role. So I'd say if he's still out there on waivers through the end of this week, that's another guy to go out and pursue along with Jonnu Smith.
It's a good one. He came through with around 15 points, 94 rushing yards and 1 tutty.
And to wrap up that Black Friday game, I think the running game also for the Raiders was a little bit disappointing if you had to pivot to one of those guys in your lineups between McCormick and Abdullah. I mean, the Chiefs defense is a hard defense to go up against rushing. They're one of the top defenses there. So it was going to be tough sledding, but no one's really broken through on that roster in the running back game with Zamir and Madison still out. So that should, boost up performances going forward for the passing game because they're going to have to throw to stay in games if their rushing attack is still going to be mediocre or below.
Yeah. So Brock Bowers will definitely be eating for sure. He's been eating all season. But that running game, man, stay away from it.
So that was for the early weekend games, the Turkey Day and Black Friday game. Do you have any takeaways from where do you want to go for today's games? Where do you want to start?
Today's games. Oh, man. Yeah, so we just kind of touched on that that Commanders Titans game. A couple other ones too, though. Man, fantasy wise, let's jump.
Let's take it one game at a time. Where do you want to start?
The biggest one I'm seeing that just jumps out to me, man, the Buccaneers and the Panthers, and reason being because, man, Bucky Irvin,
Uncle Buck,
holy crap. Man, dude's been going off these past couple weeks. Running back 1, running back 3 last week before the bye, running back 7. He has been just dominating and commanding so much attention. Even with Mike Evans coming back, Mike Evans came out and did his thing too. That overtime kind of helped. He had that 20-yard play in overtime. But Christian McCaffrey is not going to return. Knee injury.
That's unfortunate. That's something to monitor going to next week for your matchups. We'll give you the news and updates as it comes along going into Tuesday's show. So if you want to find out about Christian McCaffrey, check back in with us later in the week, and we'll give you an injury update. But the fact that he's not playing the rest of this game shows it's serious enough that they want to be precautious with it. So, it's unfortunate, but just stay tuned and monitor it. It's going to have to be something you have to make lineup decisions going into next week.
Yep. But
back on that Bucky Irvin train, if he's someone that you drafted this year going into the season, I'll give a good round of applause for you. You really found a diamond in the rough there in the later rounds of your draft, and if you stuck with him on your bench through till this later point in the year and have been starting him lately, like, he's been a difference maker. He's been winning you your weeks. He's been making the difference in your matchups, and he's really pulling along your running back room if it's been struggling in other areas. So good props to you for drafting him. I mean, and if you're someone like me who blew a lot of fab in him halfway through the year earlier and been riding him out, he's been really been the difference maker for you if you've started off rough this year like I have in a lot of my leagues. And he's been really a beneficial benefactor of fantasy so far. He's been really, really a positive and a bright spot for it. And going forward, I hope the Buccaneers continue to utilize him as a running back one and kind of park the bus with this Rachaad White business of sprinkling him in at the goal line or sprinkling in here and there. I mean, Rachaad White's a respectable back. He's a good back, but the writing's on the wall here. If the season doesn't go well for the Buccaneers the way they like it to go, just going into next year of like Bucky Irving should be your running back one, and then figure out what you want to do with Rachaad White in his contract, but have him, if he stays along with the Buccaneers, be second fiddle to, you got to unleash Bucky Irvin because he's shown the potential to really bust and break ceilings for fantasy lineups and fantasy purposes. I mean, in the NFL level, Bucs are going to do what the Bucs are going to do, but if you have them in fantasy going into your playoffs, you're really excited to see that rest of the season schedule, and hopefully you can ride him into a championship.
Yeah, man. Just Bucky Irvin all day, right? And then Mike
on
Evans
the other
had a
side of
pretty
the ball,
good game
though,
too.
like
on the other side, I feel like on the other side we're kind of seeing the same thing with the Chiefs, right? Kind of almost the same similar.
Well, with
situation.
Jonathan, because with Jonathan Brooks coming back from injury, he's eating away carries from Hubbard, and Hubbard wasn't able to get going. I know he had a crucial fumble late in the game today.
Crucial fumble. Like,
and
what are you doing? All they had to do was kick a field goal. I know.
And, that's something you risk by going one more play just to get a little bit more yards. That's one of the risks you run. But overall, in the totality of the game, though, with Hubbard and Brooks playing, they were eating each other's production, so they weren't either one of them weren't able to feast or really take over the game. On the other side with the Bucs, it showed that Bucky Irvin made the most of his opportunities and whatnot and broke free a couple times, but they were able to do respectable games between White and Irving. But for the Panthers, their running game was very stubborn and very stalled today, and that's something that's alarming going forward because they almost had this game. They almost won this one. They almost won the one last week. So,
to put it into perspective,
the Panthers can get their
to put it in perspective, Bucky Irvin had 25 carries. Rachaad White had 11 carries. Jonathan Brooks had 6 carries. Chuba Hubbard had 12 carries. So, I mean, Bucky Irvin had more carries than both Brooks and Hubbard combined. So, we can kind of see the opportunities where they went and what happened with the opportunities that were given.
And I would say, I'm no NFL expert analyst by any means, but just from the eye test, what I've been seeing this year, from my perspective, watching games and watching film and watching the different results of these games with teams that are trying to do this Detroit Lions model of having two stalwart running backs in the running game and, carrying your rushing attack between Thunder and Lightning of having multiple running backs. A lot of these teams that are installing this committee system, it's not really working. to their advantage. They're really
Broncos.
Yeah, like I think 90% of the league of like using multiple running backs in your backfield. If you're not the Lions, it's not really going to your advantage fantasy wise. I mean, NFL wise too.
I think
it's
the Ravens do pretty good because it's not like a running back by committee. It's just more so Justice Hill comes in to spell, Derrick Henry.
Well, I think what I'm trying to get at is in their Lions rushing attack, they have David Montgomery to carry drives, move the chains, and get the ball into the end zone from a goal line standpoint. And then they have Gibbs that can bust off the top of a defense, run for big plays, getting the passing down work. But they're also being fantasy productive and consistent all year long, every game. And they're two running backs on a team in a system that you're confident rolling in your lineups week in and week out for fantasy, no matter what, because they're putting up at minimum double-digit points week in and week out, and they're being productive in their offenses, whereas the 90% of the rest of the league, they're trying to do this running back by committee thing by trying to have multiple running backs do different things in the same offense. And what it's really doing is really eating at whatever ceiling that if they just went to one running back and just ran with it metaphorically, figuratively, and like real speaking, it's just, I think it hasn't worked out and it needs to be addressed going into next year of a reality check of like, we've seen the resurgence of these single running backs like Derrick Henry, Saquon Barkley, Joe Mixon, Josh Jacobs. What's the common denominator in all those running backs? They're veteran running backs, and they're running backs in a system where they are the guy. They are producing. They are being the workhorse. They are doing the load. They don't have anybody looking over their shoulder to really challenge them or compete with them of a younger talent to take away opportunities and take away volume and take away goal line situations from them. Those are the dudes. And the other teams that are trying to do this, system of like, yeah, we'll give this guy a drive or two here. We'll give this guy a play here. We'll give this guy a play there, and it's really not creating any sort of. They're not at the talent level and the performance level to be able to do that week in and week out, and it's kind of frustrating for us in a fantasy community of relying on these running back rooms when we're going to drafts next year, and for dynasty holding on to running backs, and even for redraft this year, like who we want to play. It's like who do we start, because they keep trying to play this hot hand game and it's not working. And it's really like for teams like the Broncos, you've seen it really bitten them in the ass. Like you got Javonte Williams, but then you want to sprinkle this guy here. And then for fantasy, we're sitting here scrambling. Like, do we put in this much in waivers fab for this guy or that guy? Who do I start? Okay, I have them both, but I don't feel confident about either one of them because I don't know whose week it's going to be. It's just for going the rest of the season as we're coming to the fantasy playoffs this year, it's really a discouraging thing as far as running back goes. If you don't have like those big names like I mentioned, and you're trying to get a difference maker in your running back room going to the playoffs, there you don't with how these teams are operating at the NFL level as far as the running backs go, we don't know who to rely on and who to be confidently put in our lineups if we don't have those big guys.
No, that's true. That's true. And with it only being a handful, it's like you got to really scramble to get one of those guys. And then, you think you get one, by drafting CMC first, and then you're dealing with situations
because, this year, a lot of people went really wide receiver heavy in the first couple rounds. And for the most part, wide receivers haven't really paid off due to their draft value when you drafted them. And most of them have tailed off. Obviously, the Big Ten that you got in the first round, have done their job and have relatively performed to expectations or maybe a little bit better. But those guys in those deeper rounds with either injuries or just low performances, they really haven't lived up to what you you expected them to, and you really passed on these other running backs like Kamara and Mixon and Jacobs. These guys, even Saquon, if he fell far enough down, or Derrick Henry, you missed out on those guys because you thought, it was going to be a pass-heavy wide receiver, run league. And it's turned out, in the scope of the totality of this season so far, the resurgence of running backs, and especially veteran running backs, is really going to put a pivotal thought process for us fantasy owners going into next season, either be it redraft, dynasty, or whatever, of really reevaluating the value of running backs in fantasy, the value of running backs in our running back rooms, and how we want to approach our drafts next year and how we want to build our rosters. Because I know in some leagues, some people were able to snag the combination of a Barkley and a Mixon, and a Barkley and a Henry, or a Henry and a Jacobs, and they are just coasting into the playoffs with those two guys. So, and there's not many situations you can say where you have two wide receivers that you're just coasting into the playoffs with. It's been really a running back driven year as far as fantasy producers go, and teams that are making playoffs they're really getting big production of those veteran running backs that were really written off at the beginning of the year.
Yeah. And there's been some good, man. I've been loving Joe Mixon. Just set it and forget it. I feel like running back position, man, because there's been a lot of like Cinderella running backs, right? The Tracys, what was his name over in Jacksonville?
Take Bigsby,
all these emerging guys, and you're like, oh, they look really, really good. But man, those veteran guys have been solid in and out. I mean, even Aaron Jones, he had like 2 fumbles and still came through, and had a solid day.
And what does he have a benefit of that a lot of these running back rooms, like I talked about, don't have? Is he's the main guy on that team.
Yeah,
he's gonna get volume, he's gonna get opportunity regardless of any mistakes he makes. There's no one challenging him behind him that is going to be a significant threat to play time for him. So he could have these mistakes like he did today, but at the end of the game he could turn it around and give you that performance that either met projections or went a little bit above, because he's going to be the guy they rely upon to close out and finish games.
Yeah.
Barring that everyone stays healthy. So,
yeah. Speaking of healthy, I think it'd be healthy right now to take a promo break really quick. Just to break it up. I see I got all you guys joining in, man. Hey guys,
feel free to add to the chat here, conversation. Tell us, your questions, your comments, anything. Just feel free to drop in when we come out of this break, and then we'll get back to more of the week, this Sunday's slate, and talk about more matchups going forward.
Yeah. And we'll just get back into the instant reactions on these games. So, guys, like you said, you're watching Fantasy Football Reports here on Shady Sports Network. Thanks for tuning in with us. Don't forget to hit that like button. Don't forget to hit the share button. And don't forget to leave a comment, too, right? I thought I was going to say subscribe. But go ahead and subscribe to you guys if you haven't already. Let's take this break, and we'll be right back. See you on the other side. True crime fans, I have a podcast you need to check out. Wanted. That's right. Wanted. Hosted by A.C. Roberts. This takes you into the darkest corners of unsolved history. Each episode dives deep into the chilling cases of killers who vanished into thin air. Some you've heard of, and some you haven't. Imagine the terror of the Texarkana Moonlight Murders, or the mysterious legends of the Bloody Benders still haunting Kansas. AC doesn't just tell you what happened. She immerses you in it, taking you step by step through each unsolved case in a gripping storytelling style atmosphere. So if you are ready to explore killers who got away, search for Wanted on Spotify, Apple, and wherever you listen to podcasts. That's right, Wanted. W-A-N-T-E-D on Spotify, Apple, and wherever you listen to podcasts. And then go follow them on Instagram at _wanted_podcast. That's THE_WANTED_PODCAST. Again, Wanted, hosted by AC Roberts, everywhere you listen to podcasts. Whoa, that's some Shady Sports promo for you right there. Coming live for your ears. Break it up a little bit with that True Crimes podcast to kind of take you away from sports whenever you do jump to the other side for a moment.
Absolutely. I recommend it. It's a great listen on a drive. If you're working, you're looking for some study time on something you don't know about, it's a fantastically well done podcast by AC Roberts and doing some of our darker history and learning about it. So I highly recommend it.
There we go. Yeah. No, yeah, I mean, other than speaking of true crimes though, right? Man, Kirk Cousins and Justin Herbert were murdered.
If you relied upon them in your lineups today, man, that was assault.
Man, that was assault in the worst way for sure.
I don't know what they finished for with points, but I'm pretty sure they didn't get higher than 20.
They didn't get higher than 10.
Combined.
Oh, combined, they barely got over it. Kirk Cousins,
really?
4 interceptions. Yeah. Justin Herbert had about almost 9 points.
If you're a Falcons manager, or if you even have Kirk Cousins as a fantasy manager on your team, are you worried they're going to pivot to Michael Penix Jr. at some point? I mean, they're losing games. Cousins is playing like dog doo-doo.
Yeah, he does that, though.
Next week, they play the Vikings. So, not an easy matchup by any means at all. I mean, they're going to be underdogs in that game. I almost think they still roll with Kirk Cousins just for the storyline, just for the,
because they're paying
talking point and giving him one more shot. But if it keeps continuing to go south after this Vikings game, I think it might be time to actually give Michael Penix a shot and see what you got of the rookie the last few games of the year and giving him some experience to get ready going into next year. I mean, you paid Kirk Cousins, you're going to have to pay him, so you might still have to start him next year. But as far as this season goes, it's not as good as you thought it was supposed to be when you were going into the season. So really hard, cold water to the face, look in the mirror, reality check for that team to see what direction they want to go, because Kirk looked awful. I mean, Drake London managed to, resurge and salvage his day, but for those other options in that passing game, it was tough sledding.
Ray had a decent day.
Did he do good? I didn't see his final numbers, but
he was a good flex. Yeah, okay. He had around 14 points, so he had a solid day.
Is he someone you think that you could possibly add off waivers to stash on your bench going forward, or are you kind of staying away from that?
I thought so, but I don't know, man. With the way Kirk Cousins is playing, he's throwing the ball more to the other team than his receivers. So these guys just happen to have a couple that popped off, right? Both him and Drake London. So
are you concerned about the passing attack, Atlanta? Are you staying away from those players, or how are you treating this?
I'm still rocking with Drake London, I guess. He's been good.
He's your boy now? So,
yeah. Probably. I don't know. We'll see. I might switch him out for Tyreek, though.
He kind of gave you the come on, said treatment.
I don't
Drake
know.
London at the beginning of the year was like, come on, said, you got to love me.
Yeah, he's been solid.
Come on, man.
It's been like,
come on.
He's been what you want for where you drafted him, quite honestly. Like the 4th round, the 5th round.
Man, if we could play the tape back on earlier shows, the way you're talking about Drake London was criminal, man.
I'm going to do a little mix-up episode one of these when I get the time.
You were going to leave him at the bus stop. I'm just waving at him from the bus like, bye, Drake. Bye.
Hey, I could use an editing intern. And so if any of you editors out there looking for an internship or looking for something to do.
Hell yeah, we would love to have you. We love your talents. Right. Bring it on the show and add to it. It'd be great.
Oh, come on down. But yeah, no, Drake London's been serviceable.
At 303 Bandwagon is his attachment. You could send in oh
yeah.
So people know where to send it when they're looking to respond to you.
Yeah. And then but yeah, I mean, I don't know. I'd start Lab McConkey over Drake London.
Okay. I think he got hurt today, though. I got a little notification dinger on my phone about halfway through the games.
He did injure his knee, so I would have, I guess. Maybe not.
I think Ladd had a good game, though. I know Herbert didn't throw for any touchdowns, but I think he still had a pretty good game.
Well, he had like over 100 yards in the first half. He was going off.
Oh,
sure.
Wow.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so Ladd McConkey was doing pretty good, and then he went. I think in like the end of the third quarter, somewhere around there.
Okay. So going forward, though, you're saying you'd still play Ladd McConkey over Drake London?
If he's not injured, yeah.
Okay. So you're letting Ladd on the bus? You're keeping Drake London at the bus stop?
Yeah, just based off quarterback play, though.
Oh, man, that's cold.
Not because of Drake London play. Oh, but to switch it up, though, Bijan Robinson,
I would agree, though.
man.
I would agree. It's not Drake London's fault.
Drake London's not you. It's Kirk Cousins.
It's not you. It's Kirk Cousins. That's a great bit.
Yeah, and Penix didn't look,
Did he end up playing? I didn't catch that.
No, but he came in the end of the Broncos game.
Mm-hmm.
And he didn't look,
I mean, if he's going to be doing that rest of the season, I'm not going to hold it against him. I mean, when you're only giving him a quarter or whatnot to play, that's not enough time to evaluate his playing ability.
Mm-hmm. Bijan, though, man, 135 yards in a tutty.
Where the passing fails, he's succeeding in the running game, so he's getting his touchdowns.
6 passes too. Passing was succeeding with him.
You're confident rolling him out going forward rest of the season? You're playing him against the Vikings. You're not worried about it?
Got to, right? He was
I'd agree.
He was like the 1st through the 10th pick. Like in some crazy leagues, maybe like the 15th through the 15th.
Yeah. I think where I'm getting at is just the Ravens offense as a whole is I'm still under that dome of concerned. Like I'm not confident or concerned in that offense.
Yeah.
Yeah, the Falcons offense as a whole, like when I'm starting players on teams and in my lineups, when I look at their matchups,
you just gotta swallow it and go.
Exactly.
Bijan,
I'm still starting those guys, I'm still playing those guys, but my confidence meter, my confidence level in those guys, whether they're gonna reach their projections at least, I'm not like looking at I believe that's gonna happen. I'm looking at it'd be really nice if you could get that in a little bit more, but I'm not going to be banking on it. It'd be great, it's cool, and I'm happy when it does. But when I see the under, I'm like, yeah, should have saw that coming.
Yeah, and I mean, but Bijan, his floors, I guess he had 10 points before the bye against the Broncos, though, right? Before that, he was upper 20s for a while. So I mean, based off his past performance, it's you feel like you should get a couple good games out of him before he goes out. But he was definitely RB1 in this game for sure. Whereas on the other side, their running backs just did not click, and Edwards.
Well, I'm glad though, because that problem in the past with Atlanta was they were trying to implement the other backs, Tyler Algier and any other guy besides Bijan. I think the fact that they're relying on Bijan is thank you.
Finally, right? And they had to.
Thank you. You're figuring out. You feed your beast. You feed Bijan and let those guys come in when or if something happens to him or whatever. You just feature Bijan and those other clowns can go play in the sandbox next to the sidelines or something. This is what I was talking about at the beginning of the year is the key to unlocking Bijan is for the coaching staff to realizing that they should just feed Bijan and let these other backs on their roster just play second fiddle and be where they belong, which is on the sidelines.
At least until he's tired, right? You just feed him.
Yeah, give him some rest here and there. But giving Algier drives and quarters to play is criminal when you have Bijan on your roster. I'm sorry. It should be Bijan or nothing. And it shows that they gave him, the rock this game, and regardless they lost, he still balled out for you. I'm happy if I had him in my lineups on my team with what he did.
Yeah. And then other than that, there really wasn't a whole lot more in this game. The Chargers defense, they had
I think they're an impressive defense from the beginning of the season. I never would have thought, hey, I might actually want to roster this defense and might use them and play them going into the playoff run if your team or your league, rosters defenses or whatnot. But they're really impressing under Jim Harbaugh and Jesse Minter. That defense has turned around a lot. Has come a long way from last year where they were blowing leads and
they were
like,
just
giving
giving
up
up.
games.
They would lose those games last year,
Mhm.
right? That was the Chargers and they haven't been charging.
We
a
haven't
whole
really
lot
heard
this
of that.
season.
Yeah, you're right. We haven't really heard that mantra of Chargers are
No,
charging
they've
this
been
year.
winning
So
them.
props to them for turning that defense around and starting to make it all come together. They got some wily veterans on that defense, and like their rookies are stepping up. I think that big interception touchdown was from their rookie cornerback taking it to the house. So they got playmakers on there, and they can do some serious damage rest of the season if you got them on your roster going into the playoffs.
Yeah. That is true. And then and then outside of that though, like the defense, they had around 20 points.
Oh wow. Still, that's 20 points more than if you would have like started like a Joshua Palmer or Quentin Johnson or a Kyle Pitts or like, you know, that defense alone outscored a lot of offensive pieces.
Well, I mean, that
even the quarterbacks. If you stare at the Chargers defense,
they scored more than the quarterbacks.
More points than Herbert or Cousins.
They were only outscored by Ladd McConkey and Bijan Robinson. That's it.
Okay. That's wild.
That outscored the Chargers defense. That's almost the only.
But hey,
outscored
before we get to these other two games, I'll just say real quick that if you started the Jets and the Seahawks defenses, you were happy because both defenses got a defensive touchdown scored. Like that, that was a wild game.
I didn't even follow that game at all, so it'd be
Neither nor did I, but I also saw the alerts on my phone for the app, just alerting me that like the interception touchdown for the Jets and the interception touchdown for the Seahawks. I was like, man, if you have the defense here on either team, they're scoring you points.
They had 16 and 17 points.
Hey, that's more than Cousins, good. Herbert.
That's more than that's more than the quarterbacks from that game too. So
really, wow,
yeah, they outscored the quarterbacks in that game as well too. So
it's the week of the defenses. It seems like they're outscoring a lot of these offensive players.
Yeah. Speaking of the week of the defenses, let's go to a game that had no defenses. Mix it up. Well, I mean, it was so and sorry.
No, you're good. You're good.
Game. So Falcons lost to the Chargers. Falcons lost 13-17 on that game, guys. So moving it along on this bus, keeping it rolling, we're going to jump on over to the Colts and the Pats. A game that felt like a defensive game, but then you look at it and it's like, whoa.
Yeah, you're gonna have to fill me in on it because I didn't follow any of this game. I didn't.
Well, you know,
I didn't have many pieces in fantasy.
24. Yeah, nobody has pieces, right? I mean, Hunter Henry.
Well, I feel some people probably had Drake May, Anthony Richardson, Jonathan Taylor, Ramondre Stevenson, Demario Douglas.
Not so much Ramondre, but probably right. Well, he's rostered on 59%.
And then Austin Hooper and Hunter Henry. I mean, there's pieces to be had there.
Yeah, and both their tight ends went off. Drake May, man.
He's looking good. Solid. He's looking solid. I mean, with the pieces and the other options he has in front of him for passing, he's doing pretty good.
Man, Bryce Young's looking good. You know, Anthony Richardson's looking good. These second-year quarterbacks are looking good too, man. It's gonna be pretty fun going forward. It's gonna be pretty fun going forward. But Jonathan Taylor finally woke up, right? That was really good to see. He's been kind of sleeping the past couple games, just kind of sleepwalking through. He finally came through, woke up. So he had himself a day with 96 yards and a touchdown.
Nice.
Yeah.
And that's what you like to see out of your stud running back.
Yeah. Yes. Could have been a little more, right? But hey, beggars can't be choosers. You just hope.
Comparatively so with his previous 2 weeks, you'll take what he did today.
Yep. Very, very, very true. Whereas it was.
How do you do against his counterpart on the other side of the ball? Did he outperform Ramondre, or was it close?
He did. Yeah. Well, Ramondre had 73 yards and 21 receiving yards, but no touchdowns.
Okay.
So that was
no end zone.
The difference maker there, and it was about a 5-point difference.
Okay.
Between the two, so. That was it right there, right? So, no, he didn't really outperform him, but he did just barely,
Yeah.
Right? But it seemed like they were trying to get Gibson involved too. He kind of had himself a day.
Really?
2 yards on 7 carries and a touchdown. So I didn't watch this game. I just kind of
Oh,
followed
so
the
the
points.
touchdown went to Gibson. That's
Yeah.
unfortunate.
So the touchdown went to Gibson instead of Ramondre. So kind of that thing,
Not
you
many
know, like
people
you
are
said,
having
where
Gibson or playing Gibson in their lineup, so that's kind of frustrating if you're a
man, nobody,
Stevenson
right?
holder.
He's on
Yeah.
17% of teams in the sleeper league. He was on 3% of rosters, or well, 3% of those teams started him. So
Damn.
yeah, no one was starting Gibson, and you're not even looking to pick up Gibson because it's too inconsistent. So, and the teams aren't even watching Gibson. That's why he has a day like that too, right? They're not game planning for a Gibson to come and pop off. So yeah, props to them for getting it, but it really
I know you
like
mentioned
said,
Drake May. How do you do comparatively to Anthony Richardson? Was it
was
close?
similar. It was pretty close.
Okay.
I mean, he doubled up Anthony Richardson in yards. He had 238 yards to Anthony Richardson's 109, but Anthony Richardson threw 2 touchdowns and had 2 interceptions. Drake May threw 1 touchdown. And he carried the ball for 59 yards. So he actually ran for more yards than Anthony Richardson, who carried for 48 yards and had a touchdown. So those touchdowns helped Anthony Richardson to offset those 2 interceptions. And he came out with around 23 points, and Drake May had around 21 points. So pretty close, man. Pretty close.
Wow,
Drake May's
it
been
sounded like
having
a close game. It was close on the game box score. So
yeah, I mean it's 25-24. It was a 1-point game. So you know, you kind of saw the little difference makers. I mean, Jonathan Taylor was a little better, right? Anthony Richardson was a little better. Hunter Henry and Austin Hooper had themselves a day. 75 yards to Hunter Henry and 42 yards and a touchdown to Austin Hooper. So they were both around like 13 to 15 points, more like 13 to 14 points. And then you know, it was they just had more opportunities over on the Patriots side, but it felt like the Colts just kind of took advantage of, you know, they were just a slightly better team. A more seasoned team, I guess you could say.
Now, what did the pass catchers do? How did Michael Pittman do without Josh Downs? As far as his fantasy day goes, was he
not relevant? He had 42 yards on 5 receptions, no touchdown.
Damn. That's someone. If you I personally drafted him in a couple places. That's someone. Or if you draft him in fantasy, you really,
I don't know,
really disappointed in his play this year, and not most of it's not his fault. It's quarterback play. I mean, he's a guy. If you put him on any other offense in the league, he's probably getting a lot more volume, a lot more touchdowns, and a lot more big plays. I mean, he's being very capped in that Colts offense, and with them drafting Adonai Mitchell and having Josh Downs and Alec Pierce, some of these younger wide receivers, I mean, best case scenario for this guy, if they're not going to turn around his career there in Indianapolis, is moving him on somewhere else to give him a shot at, you know, being a better part of that offense, because they're really brutalizing his career there. It's unfortunate because he's a great wide receiver. Well, like if put him on the Commanders or put him on a team that's going to make a playoff run that could use a wide receiver too like that on their team and be a difference maker on the offense. I mean, he should be with the Colts, but they're just not doing it. I mean, most of it's quarterback play, but like, I mean, he's been hurt a little bit too. It's not come together for him this year.
Yeah. No, very, 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 very true. I'd like to have him over here at the Broncos, man. That'd be awesome.
Open up the checkbook, Sid. What would it take?
I don't even know. Probably get rid of Sutton, no. But our receivers are looking good, so I don't know if I'd want anybody.
Yeah, I know. Mims is looking good. Jordan Humphrey's looking good. So, you know.
Yeah, so, and then, this game, I mean, like I said, the score was 25-24 for the Colts. That was, you know, it wasn't much of an outing, but I thought Drake made it.
It was a field goal away from being different.
Yeah, so, hey, let's take a promo really quick, and then when we come back, we'll talk about the Steelers-Bengals game really quick.
All right.
Yeah, and then we'll preview the Broncos game.
Yeah.
And, probably wrap it up after that. So
absolutely.
Let's get this going really quick. We'll be right back, guys. You're watching Fantasy Football Reports on Shady Sports Network. Don't forget to hit that like button and please share. See you guys on the other side. Fantasy football fanatics, get ready to dominate your league. Tune into the Fantasy Football Reports every Tuesday at 6:30 p.m. and Sunday at 7 p.m. Mountain Standard Time. We're breaking down injury updates, who to start or sit, trade strategies, and lineup advice to help you crush the competition. So don't miss the inside scoop. Find Fantasy Football Reports on your favorite social media platform, live on the Shady Sports Network. Your championship starts here. Yeah.
Yes, come join us.
Now,
if you're watching with us tonight, please leave a comment, question, fantasy advice, matchup updates, anything. We're here to talk with you and chat with you. We love to have it. And even after we go off live today, join us over on our fantasy football group over there on Facebook. We're in the Discord channel and the Shady Sports Network talk and content, I think it's called. But yeah, there's other places to join us to keep this thing going. Keep talking football and having a good night.
Yeah, and you can check in the description. You'll see all the links for that, guys. So yeah, keep this going.
And if you're looking to play with us next year, we have a fantasy football league with 6 spots left. So feel free to message either Sed or I on Sleeper with a friend add or request, and we can get you added and into the league.
Yeah. And you'll see across the bottom, you see Justin's Sleeper handle. You see my handle on all other platforms. So yeah, hit us up on Sleeper.
Just say you watch the show on YouTube, looking to join, leave a good review, looking to join the league, and get you in there.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So before we go into the break, we were talking about that Pats Colts game, and then I wanted to keep it AFC, I guess.
No, you're cool. I like that.
Yeah, man. I know the Eagles beat the Ravens, and maybe we'll talk on that too. Real quick, let's talk about the Steelers-Bengals game, though, man. The Steelers just came in and took hold of that division that I don't think any of us saw coming. We all saw. I don't know.
I know Shawnee did. If he was here, he'd tell you he did.
I wish he was here. Yeah, Shawnee, and if you're listening, man, shout out, bro. We
miss you, bud.
Crazy, our TJ too. One of you guys, tell me, man, because
you Steelers fans,
you got Russ Wilson going out here for 400 yards. He threw for 400 yards.
Hey, but Justin Fields had the good play at the end of the game to get the first down and really put the cap on the game. So
yeah,
he made his mark on the team too.
Yeah, they bring in Justin Fields in crucial situations, and he takes care of stuff and gets it done.
And both of those running backs on that Steelers team, like Jalen Warren, is just the lighter, faster back, and Najee today just grounded and pounded. He got into the end zone, so you like to see that. But both those running backs efficient and productive for fantasy this week, which is nice to see.
Yep,
because I could easily put them in our flex lineups at the very least, and maybe had him in our second running back spot,
Well, Najee probably is in your second running back spot for the most part. I feel like he's on a lot of teams, on 91% of teams, so he probably is in the second spot. And then, Jalen Warren would not be a bad flex if you needed a running back, especially if you're in a larger league too and you're grasping for air. He'd be a great flex and probably, a great running back too, for sure, in that larger league, man. And same thing with those receivers too, man. It seems like with Russ, they come alive. Outside of Pickens, you don't know quite who it's going to be, who the second fiddle will be. It changes every week, but Pickens has been really consistent. I see him as a second wide receiver too, man, or in that flex spot.
But even their tight end, Freiermuth, he had himself a game too. He had a touchdown and a handful of big catches going into that game because for a bit there it was really close, and Bengals were trying to keep up with the Steelers, which is,
weird.
Those divisional games are wild. You see the last one the Steelers played against the Browns, and it was really rugged and gritty, and it was hard to get points, where this game seemed like everybody was scoring. I think it had the highest total points in the game for the week in the NFL. So I'm impressed with Russ. He's really balled out, man. He outdueled Joe Burrow and the Bengals, and he really put his stamp on the game. He really was the difference maker. What led the Steelers to winning this game is throwing the ball and keeping the chains moving, and minimalizing the opportunities that the Bengals had on the other side of the ball. Because every time the Bengals scored, he had a counter attack and he put the ball right back in the end zone. So props to him.
And that's crazy to think, right? Like, I feel like a few weeks ago, everybody was just mad that they were putting Russ in the game. And it's just like, man, he's undefeated since coming in. You know,
and that Steelers defense, they did one hell of a job keeping the Bengals offense off the scoreboard for the most part. Like they had a couple big plays too at the end of the game to seal it, but you know, it was a good game fantasy wise on either side of the ball. If you had pieces in either of these offenses, you're happy with what they gave to you in your fantasy lineups. Like if you had Burrow or Russell Wilson, you're happy with that. If you had Harrison Warren or Chase Brown, you're happy with that. If you had Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, or Pickens, you're happy about that. I mean, if you had Gesicki even and Freiermuth, you're all right with those games because we know how hard the tight end landscape is if you don't have a Bowers or a Kelsey. You know how rough that could be. So even the kickers in this game, I know there was a couple misses.
Boswell's been that dude, right?
Yeah. You know, you got double-digit points from both guys, so that's good. So overall, at a fantasy perspective of it, it was a very good game. If you're a Bengals fan overall, though, you weren't happy. If you're a Steelers fan, you're excited about getting another win, especially with the Ravens losing. That keeps you some distance in the division and for the playoff race. So you're a little bit happier and breathe a little bit easier after this week.
It's freaking crazy.
I mean, one big injury from the game, though, there was a Calvin Austin injury. He got knocked out with a concussion, I believe, and he didn't return to the game. So if you were relying on him as a bench player or a flex or somewhere on your roster, just keep an eye on that. We'll keep you posted, too, on injuries going into next week with the Tuesday show. So that's just something to monitor as the week goes on.
Very true, very true, very true. Yeah, so Steelers take this game 44-38. Big score. Big boy score, 44-38. Was the outcome in that. And of course, I mean, Bengals are just like they're the best 4-8.
They're trying though, man. They're just coming up short. It's like the theme is with a lot of these teams that have bad records, like they're not bad teams, I would say. They're just getting outplayed. Like Raiders gave them the hell. Panthers gave the Buccaneers hell. Bengals gave the Steelers hell. Like even the Jets gave the Seahawks hell today, and we're leading for a point there. Like it's just and even the Saints, they were leading most of that game against the Rams too. It's just, you know, sometimes towards you got closers and you just get outplayed, and you know, and this time around just didn't go their way. But I don't think there's truly all those they're like bad performances. Like the team just played like absolute shite. Like even the Jaguars gave the Texans a run for their money after Trevor Lawrence went out. Like it was a close game. So and that's good. That's admirable to see these teams not giving up and rolling over and going belly up. I mean, it's keeping us interested and entertained in the fantasy perspective because pieces in those offense are still relevant. They're still trying to put up points and they're getting yards and they're doing their thing to try to win games. And that's helpful for their NFL teams and it helps us in fantasy. So that is appreciated. It just sucks if you're a fan of those franchises that they catch the L's, you know?
Another team that caught the L today. Another team that caught the L today in a big way, the Ravens, man.
Ooh, they needed that one said with the Steelers winning.
Yeah. Oof. Yeah, that was like a double entendre, right? I don't know.
Maybe it was the heavyweight matchup between Derrick Henry and Barkley, and I think Barkley won that one today.
Man, Barkley, I think it was pretty solid both sides, but definitely I think Barkley came out. You know, he had the tutty too. That was the difference. They were like,
I think that was the difference maker. They both had about, you know, same or similar. It's just that touchdown.
Well, and like 20 yards more too to Barkley, and I think that was at the end too in the garbage time when he was just eating it up. But yeah, no, that hit, man. Cooper DeJean put that hit on King Henry. I was like, oh man, the Eagles are winning this one. They came to win. I didn't think NFC teams had it in them. I had to see them play an AFC team.
Okay, you're right now.
They have it in them.
I mean, half the NFC is, you know, 500 or sub 500. So I can see where you're coming from there. But there's
man.
some fight in those top echelon NFC teams, man.
Yep, and they bring it out, man. They bring it out in the best of ways, and we saw that today, man. The Eagles came through, and they've been on an 8-game
Their formula
winning
is
streak.
simple. Their pass game is atrocious.
Atrocious.
They just want to run the ball and play good
Yeah.
defense. That's their formula, and that's what's winning them games. Is
'Cause-
they're just limiting the other team from getting offensive plays and opportunities to put points up on the board. They're extending drives, moving the chains, run the ball through Barkley or Hurts, getting those, throw you off your game, big catches from A.J. Brown and Goddard for the most part, but they're just doing it by running the ball, clock management, drive management, and they're forcing the other teams to run out of time. Like, the Ravens came back, they got a touchdown late, but just too much time went off the clock and too many possessions squandered.
And yeah, like you said, Jalen Hurts was okay.
Yeah.
Right? Like, it wasn't anything spectacular. And same thing with AJ Brown, man. It was okay. It wasn't even okay with AJ Brown. It was a bit underwhelming, but D God, Dallas Goedert, he had a decent game. They just look like, not the best on offense outside of Barkley. And I feel like he's just been carrying them a lot. A lot.
I'm glad it's someone else seeing this too, other than just me. I mean, I get some heat for, being harder on the Eagles offense, but let's call a spade. Like, their quarterback can't throw the ball well. And he's relying on his legs, and he's relying on Barkley to carry that offense down the field.
Who would you take, Anthony Richardson or Jalen Hurts?
I'd still take Jalen Hurts. He's a better quarterback than Anthony Richardson, though. Okay. But at the same time, he's throwing about the same or maybe a little bit better than Anthony Richardson. Like, and if I was talking to our chat, on last week, it's just, if you have Devontae Smith and you have AJ Brown and you have Dallas Goddard or other of these receiving options in this offense this year, I think more times than not, you've been frustrated with the performances you've had out of those players where you've drafted them. Like, you expect, a lot of catches for Goddard and a touch. I mean, got one today. That's good. But, like, you're expecting season-long bigger performances from this passing attack. You're expecting them to put up more points and be more effective through the air, and that's just not the case this year. Statistically, it shows. Like, they're just not a passing team. They're not a pass-first team. They got their gem from the Giants. The Giants gave them an MVP, essentially, is what he's going for this year. He's essentially carrying that team on his back in Saquon Barkley, and it's working. They can't stop the tush push. They can't stop Hurts from scrambling and getting first downs that way, and they can't stop Barkley from busting runs, and that just hurts the passing attack overall. I mean, for fantasy-wise, it's like, it's frustrating if you have, some of these pieces in the pack, even if you have Hurts. I mean, you expect, like, numbers comparatively speaking from years past. You want those big games, and it's just not happening. It's just, but they're winning games, so it doesn't matter. On the NFL level, they're winning games, so they don't care. It's just the same formula that's going to work. Yeah, and then you just got to hope that the points they are putting up in your lineups is just enough to get you over your matchups, because until they start faltering or slowing down or losing games, it isn't going to change.
And I think just that with fantasy football, you have to, like, kind of understand that it does not correlate with success in the NFL. You know what I mean? Like, fantasy success may not be the same as success in the NFL. Like, a lot of times you're looking for players that are getting high volume, high usage, and a lot of times those are players on teams that aren't the best, right? That's why they're using them. That's why Brock Bowers is going off, right? They have to use him. So why not use him? He's great. So why not use him? And that's when you see a great coach, not even a great coach, because, Antonio Pierce is on the line, but, like, maybe a great coordinator, a great play caller, recognizing that and actually using it to their advantage, or maybe because they have to, but still, like, you usually, like, a player like a Jalen Hurts or Pat Mahomes, once they realize, like, once the teams realize they don't need to be Superman to win games, and they step back and they step away from it, it works out really, really great in everybody's interest, right? Because they are winning games. They have a they do have a squad around them for a reason, and it sucks fantasy wise. But I mean, AJ Brown is doing just what is needed to take the pressure off of Saquon Barkley.
Because what did he get today? Like 9-10 points. And what did Goddard get? Like probably about 9-10 points.
Yeah, AJ Brown had 11 points, and then Goddard had 12 points.
I mean,
yeah.
I guess it's all right. I mean, it's not a goose, and it's
it sucks, right? It sucks.
Because you expect more. Like last year, they had a bunch of 20-point games, and it's like not happening this year. It's like between 10 and 15, and that's the cap. It's sad.
Yeah, especially you see like Mark Andrews when you see Isaiah Likely getting 14 points,
right?
You see Mark Andrews.
And comparatively, where did you draft Goddard comparatively to Likely? You probably didn't draft Likely.
You didn't draft Likely.
Goddard had to be.
Or you probably drafted Likely like at the end, maybe, right?
Yeah.
You had an extra spot. You're like, oh, look, this guy's there. Okay, I'll take him. But yeah, no, probably not.
Even through the injuries, AJ Brown's injury and Dallas Goedert's injury, you held on to these players because you knew they had the potential to really cap matchups. And even since they've been back, it isn't happening. And you might have, I haven't checked verbatim, but there might have been one game there that they really elevated your matchups. But for the most part, we're 13 games into the season, and it's like, more times than not, you're looking at them in your lineup and you're like, well, at least it wasn't a goose.
Yeah. Yeah, very true. And I think we kind of gotten like that with a lot of these players that are, high drafted players, right? That we expected to be in one place from years past. But I feel like with the Eagles, we knew it was the same thing. Last year, it wasn't much different.
If the trend remains the same this year going through the playoffs, it's really going to affect my outlook for drafting Eagles players next year. Outside of Barkley, I don't think I want to invest or reach in other Eagles players because from what I've seen this year, the only one that's really swaying matchups and really, determining games this year is Barkley. The rest of them, they're helping you get there to be relevant to your matchups, but they're not really throwing it over inside your favor if you have them. And if you're playing against them, I know I haven't, outside of Barkley, I haven't really feared any of them that I played against. I'm like, I know they're going to get their dozen or so points, but they're not going to blow up on me and get 20 or 30 points against me, So
yeah.
And make sure Sam doesn't hear any of this. I don't want to get, in trouble.
Oh, well, you're right. I feel like every other week they're calling for Sirianni's head over there. So, Philly, they know what they fans know what's up. They see it too. They, of course you'll take a win, but come on, you got to be bored watching it. Anyway, well, I guess not. Whatever.
For fantasy,
I digress. Yes. Fantasy wise, which is what we're about over here on Fantasy Football Reports. Hence the name Fantasy Football Reports on Shady Sports Network. We don't want them. I'll take them. I took AJ Brown back in a trade. I traded Nico Collins for AJ Brown, Jonathan Taylor, which probably Nico Collins probably outscoring both of them by himself every week. But whatever. I was like,
it is what it is.
Yeah, whatever. But yeah, don't want them outside of that. Devonta Smith. Anybody else, you're not rocking with them. D guy, you're rocking with him probably because if you took him, you don't have any other tight ends to get to replace him. But maybe you do. You could have picked up a Tucker Kraft or somebody else. Jonas Smith, someone like that. But moving on though, and then so that game, the Eagles come out on top, 24-19. And
another game where missed field goals.
Well, it was a lot farther apart than that because the Ravens scored in the last few seconds, so it wasn't like.
Well, before the last touchdown by Barkley, the score would have been had Tucker made his extra points and his field goals, it would have been 19-17.
Okay. Yeah. So I think I turned it on after that.
A multiple missed field goals and extra points that really was the nail in the coffin for the Ravens. It would have been a different story.
Yep.
Had they didn't leave points on the table.
would have been an entirely different story. Speaking of field goals, going into the next game, Broncos and Browns preview. Will Lutz, man, he had himself a day last week.
Yes, he did. That was impressive.
Yeah, so 5 for 5, 54 yard. 54 yards was his longest field goal, and it's 2 for 2 on extra points, which the Broncos came around, man, scoring big. But this is a setup, this could be a setup game, man. Like, you got to watch. I mean, the Browns got a lot of spunk. They got a lot of.
I know beginning of this week, you're really high on the Broncos. You're confident they're going to take this game at home, but what are you feeling now after,
Well, they have to take it at home after this weekend if they want to stay in this playoff race. Yeah, if they want to stay up in this playoff race, man, they have to continue to win in the AFC for sure.
What's the weather supposed to be like? You gonna get a bunch of snow like this Buffalo game tonight?
Well, no. I think it's supposed to be nice on tomorrow. Because, I mean, it's like 33 degrees. No, I'm going to work. I wish I was going to the game.
Have you gone to any games this year so far?
I have not. It's been it's been a year for me. I've just been really focusing on this and trying to focus in on.
Which thank you everybody here tuning in and helping us out by keeping this thing going and keeping this thing rolling and subscribing and liking and following and sharing it with everybody. Really boosted our viewership and our support here this year on the show. And I, for one, appreciate it. I know Sed does too.
I'm so thankful for it. I'm so thankful for it. I mean, and then, we're accepting sponsors too. So any of you guys looking to get, promo done, hit me up. Let's talk about it because, across the board, we get quite a bit of views. We get a good amount of views.
And an editor too after tonight.
Yeah, an editor, everybody hit me up. You want to be a part of it, hit me up. Let's talk and see what we can do. But no, moving on. Yeah. So tomorrow is supposed to be like a high of 48. So it's supposed to be sunny. It's going to be nice tomorrow.
So it's Kicker's Paradise. So Dustin Hopkins, Will Lutz, you're firing those guys up?
Yeah, and it's in Denver too. So definitely don't kickers kick farther in Denver because of the altitude or something like that. So the ball travels. Yeah, I don't know. Ball goes farther. So whatever to say. But anyway, yeah, Jerry Jeudy revenge game, right? I mean, sure.
Ooh, you think it's happening? You think he gets his touchdown?
Well, I think Winston's going to try to feed him because I feel like Winston feeds into stuff like that. So I think he'll definitely be looking for Jeudy a lot more. And that's okay because that'll give, Surtain a chance to shut it down. That'll give because I think Riley Moss is
You think this defense steps up and holds Winston and the Browns to limited opportunities and maybe a couple turnovers?
Oh, yeah. They're definitely going to step up and hold limited opportunities. We're about to
How's Riley Moss's injury? Is he projected to play?
No, he's out.
Oh, that's not good.
Yeah. Riley Moss won't play Monday in Cleveland versus Cleveland. Did not practice all week due to a sprained MCL he suffered last week.
Any other notable injuries from both sides of the ball? Is Tillman going to play? Do we know?
I think Tillman's playing.
Okay.
Yeah, Tillman is playing. Oh no, Tillman's out. Tillman's out. Yeah. So Jerry Jeudy's next man up, right?
So if you need a pivot, do you think if players still on the waiver wire, do you think you can rock an Elijah Moore or a little Jordan Humphrey or Marvin Mims or a Devon Bailey if he's still there?
You could probably find better options, but I mean, I'd look at Bailey if you need.
Well, being that it's Monday night, you only got to pick from those two teams if
if you need to. If you have Tillman or one of those other guys, I mean, probably look at I'd say Bailey or Elijah Moore because obviously, like we said, if it's going to be Jeudy the main guy, maybe Elijah Moore's open a little bit more because Pat Surtain is playing Jeudy. So Mims, man, we could see another Mims out the backfield. If they're feeding Mims the way they were in that last game, I think we could see a good score out of him, but I wouldn't rely on it, It's like
hopefully you have your matchups in hand that you're trying not to have a Monday miracle from one of those guys.
Yeah, that'd be scary, especially with these two teams. But I mean, maybe like a Bo Nix, even a Jameis Winston, if you're like unsure about your other quarterbacks, or you had an injury, you could just pivot and play one of these guys confidently. I feel like compared to what we've been seeing from the weekend, for sure. But Bo Nix for sure. Like I think he just has that momentum right now. He has that swagger about him, but at the same time too, though, I mean, we saw Jaden Daniels had his down game, and it happens. They're rookies, right? So hopefully not. Hopefully they keep it moving. But this definitely is a game that one slip up could go in the other direction and give the Browns confidence, right? So
keep the turnovers to a minimum or not at all.
No turnovers, right? You don't want to see any fumbles, so none of those weird ghost fumbles from the receivers at all. We can't have that this game because we don't want to feed them. We don't want them getting their chest big. So yeah, I think but I think it'll be good. I see the Broncos coming out having a solid game.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's good to hear. That's what Broncos fans want to hear.
Hopefully, I hope so, right? I don't know. Like, I just hope that they come out and have a good game. That's what I'll say.
If you're a Browns fan, though, you're still thinking you're going to give them their best shot and might make it a game? You don't think it'll be – I hope it's not a snooze fest on a Monday.
I hope it's not a snooze fest, but it is a Monday night game, and I hope the Broncos just come out and just do what they need to do early. And just
so you can go to work on Tuesday feeling good?
Yeah. Just punch them in the mouth and just show them what needs to be done. So,
because what do great teams do? They put away teams they should, and not play around with teams that they have no business being in the game.
And Bo Nix has winning culture behind him. So,
what's the minimum amount of TDs do you think he gets this weekend or this Monday night? Two?
Yeah.
One of those rushing or both passing?
Oh, if you're adding rushing, I'd say 3.
Hey, he's mobile. He's shown he's a mobile quarterback. He can get out that pocket. So I wouldn't put it past him for running one in. Because I don't see any big game coming from Javonte or any of those running backs. I mean,
and I think this could be a game for the running backs to really open up too.
You do?
Yeah, I mean, he's had 4 rushing touchdowns so far this season. So I mean, he could be due for one based on what we've seen from him. So
would you be starting Javonte or Estime over a Chubb?
Yeah, I'd start Javonte over a Chubb.
Okay.
Javonte needs to wake up.
If he wakes up, curl up again and have one of his dud games.
Yeah, no, he's gonna have one of his go off games. He had a duck game last week, so he's due for a go off game, bounce back. So, I'd fire up Javonte over Chubb for sure.
All right, I'll keep a note of that because I'm not one to put past a dud game from Javonte. He's really stubbed his toe this year with fantasy wise.
But when he has his stud games, he goes off though, right? He had his one. Well, he had one go off, but still, like,
say he has a bad game here. If he has a bad game, do you think that they move on from him after this year?
Probably so, especially with Estime showing he can have a decent game, and with McLaughlin not being much. I don't think there's any reason to try to struggle through it. You might as well just keep it going. And you see that you can get running backs in the draft too if you draft right. You can get a really solid, decent running back out of the draft, and we're seeing too, like, maybe they don't. If they have Estime, they don't need Javonte, right? They need more. So to find a really solid lightning guy, they need that Sonic to the knuckles. So I can see
there's only one Sonic and Knuckles in this league.
Exactly. And they can have, they can have their Donkey Kong and Diddy Kong moment if they find the right Diddy Kong.
You better hope so.
Right? Like, so Estime shown that he can be that stubborn running back that Javonte is supposed to be. And he just, I don't know. It just hasn't been it.
What about Bidet? Is he supposed to be coming back? I know he went on IR with the back earlier this year.
He wasn't drafted, so they don't even, you get hurt. You kind of like.
He's just his practice squad guy.
Yeah, you got to come back and really take it back. You got to really take it back, and then the other guys got to be really sucking if they're already rolling, right? So, it'll be really hard for Bidet to get back into it unless he just really comes back and shows out. I could see them just kind of going the Phillip Lindsay route and just kind of, let him be and let him go wherever he needs to go. So we'll see. I don't know that, like I said, it just depends on what the draft is looking like next year too. I think we'll see a lot of running backs starting to emerge these next couple of weeks. And I mean, Jonte is going to be a top 5 pick, so he won't be available. So I think it's really just seeing who the other running backs are coming out of college. And there's quite a bit of them, man. Like, especially going to this 12-team playoff, you get a chance to see, like, some of the best of the best. I mean, there was a guy from Kansas or Kansas State just put like almost 300 yards on the Buffaloes 2 weeks ago. So, like there's running backs to be found all over the board from college. So I think, they don't need to pay Javonte. They can get a lot done for a lot less.
Okay.
Yeah. That's my take. I don't know though. Those guys get paid.
Hey, well, you got the finger on the pulse though. You're in there in the state and you follow your team. That's your team. So trust your evaluations.
Yeah, we'll see. But I mean, other than that, I think it's gonna be a good game, man. I'm looking for the Broncos to pull away. Probably around the third quarter, you start seeing them pull out like they normally do, and just kind of taking hold of the game. So it's gonna be a fun watch for sure.
Hopefully, everyone stays healthy and has big fantasy performances, and they get the W and they go on to next week. They have to win. This is a must win because
we could probably still winning. Well, we could probably still, it hurts our playoff chances if we lose, but we can still probably, beat the Chargers.
Because even with the Ravens losing, I mean, if you win, you kind of like put yourself in a wild card position. If you don't,
we're like right behind the Ravens right now, so we gotta kind of take this win and take every win that we can, especially
because it's not very often that the Ravens have been losing. So you got whatever ground you can get, you got to take. So I feel as an outside, NFL fan or whatever, just outside looking in, I feel like this is a must win. You can't lose. You can't drop this game against the Browns.
Every game is a must win, but you can't.
I mean, like if you're playing someone in the NFC, or if you're playing like a team that's competing for like a divisional spot in the AFC, it must stings a little bit less. But like this, you have no business losing this game. You should take care of it and gain ground in the AFC playoff picture, and take that and go into next, because I don't know who you guys play next week, but definitely a win here is needed to keep that momentum going.
Yep. I feel the same way. So they need to come out strong. And then a lot of people are probably dependent on like a Cortland Sutton or a Bo Nix or Jerry Jeudy even in a flex spot to pull them through. So it'll be a fun game to watch. I just hope for big scores, and I hope we see something out of our tight end room on the Broncos, because we can use some of those tight ends right now.
That's what I'm saying, man. Like you got Darnold Parham sitting there on the practice squad. He's a big red zone target. Like, what's it going to take for him to break through? I mean, you already got rid of Greg Dulcich. You waived his bum.
Right.
So
who knows?
Is there anything you've seen from Troutman and Kroll that really say like, no, these guys need to play. We don't need to give Parham a chance?
Not really, but we haven't been really needing a tight end either. Maybe they'll be looking to draft a tight end, if not a running back early. So,
well, what you've seen in this division, though, every team in your division has a significant tight end
room. Yeah.
So that's the one thing the Denver Broncos are missing or lacking is a sturdy, stable tight end to help Bo Nix develop and have a security blanket in the red zone for big target threats.
They don't
for a
need
touchdown.
He got Sutton in the red zone.
Right.
We're good. No, but on that, I think it'll be a good game. I'm looking for the Broncos to pull a W out on that one. But yeah, on that note, I think that's it, man.
It's been a good night, guys. Appreciate Austin, you chiming in, hanging with us, talking with us tonight. It was good to have your company. Look forward to seeing you on Tuesday night. For everybody else, if you're joining us and just didn't chime in, just please like, share, and follow us on other groups like on Facebook and Discord. And we just like having you here. So appreciate you staying this long with us for the show, and hope all this, analyzing and breaking down of games and fantasy stuff helped you out and gave you some clarity and stuff going forward into Tuesday night, because we'll be back here at it Tuesday night doing it again.
Yep. Like you said, we'll be here Tuesday night at 6:30 p.m. Mountain Standard Time. So come back, find us on Shady Sports Network, wherever you get your social medias at. Just look up Shady Sports Network, and then you can see it in the description as well. We'll have all the links in there. So guys, don't forget to follow, like, subscribe. See you Tuesday again. Aside from that, catch us Sunday again too. We'll be back at 7 p.m. Same place, same time. Thanks for joining us, and hope you guys have a great night. I'm a danger.
a game changer.